What's up, Gov Boys? All right, so today we are going to talk about gerrymandering. So if we go back to our slideshow, and before you listen to this lecture, please listen to the New York Post lecture that I gave you. It goes over what we call packing and cracking, which are two different styles of gerrymandering that we see practiced by our state legislators. Today, we're going to talk about kind of the history of gerrymandering, what the pros and cons are of it, and how it affects us as constituents to these districts. So, gerrymandering gets its name from uh, a Massachusetts governor from 1811, a guy by the name of Elbridge Gerry. So Gerry spelled Gerry. So they even screwed up his name in the labeling of gerrymandering. So he was governor in 1811, and he was redistricting the Massachusetts districts. And in drawing the Essex districts, which is right outside of Boston, he drew such an odd shape that uh, his opponents said it was similar to that of a salamander. So since forth, they've always called this practice of oddly shaping districts gerrymandering. And what he was trying to do was he was trying to lump in Jeffersonian Republicans into the same district so that he could win more support in the districts. And that's kind of how gerrymandering is used today. Whoever holds the power at the state legislature, be it the Republicans, the Democrats, yield the power of drawing the districts. So if the Republicans hold the support, they can draw districts in favor of themselves. If the Democrats hold the support of the state legislators, they can draw districts in their favor, so on and so forth. So give you an example of some of the weirder ones out there. So this is Chicago, and they actually call this district the headphone district because if you look at it sideways, it kind of looks like a set of headphones like I have on right now. Because you have one district that flanks, the inner city of Chicago here. You've got on this side comes up to the interstate right here, which is weird that they wanted to branch it together with the interstate because there's not even any residents that live right here. And then it comes along and flanks the other side of Chicago. It doesn't make a lot of sense unless you understand who the representative or who the constituents are within those city limits. And then if you look down here, 2004, this is northern Florida. This doesn't look terrible, though the shapes are kind of weird. But then if you look over here at District 11, you have Tampa right here. And then you have this chain of islands. And then it connects over here to St. Pete's. So there's not even within here any land that's actually holding the two proponents of this district together. This realistically, if you look at St. Peter's, should be part of District 10, but they drew it this way in order to have the most constituents within those districts that they knew would vote for the representative they want. And that's where packing and cracking comes into place. So the video that I posted explains this in more detail than I'm going to. But let's say you lived in a state that had 50 people and you wanted to put it into 50 districts. That's what this represents. And the people are represented here as red and blue. You have 20 red, you have 30 blue in this utopian state. If you were going to divide it up in perfect representation, you'd have 2 red districts and 3 blue districts. That's the perfect way of representing the state because you have 20 red, 30 blue, so you'd have 2 red, 3 blue districts. Now you could compact these districts and actually turn them into all blue representation depending on how you draw the lines. If we drew horizontal lines rather than vertical lines, you would win 5 blue districts, even though there's 20 red people in this district, and the red people would have no representation. What we see far more frequently, though, in drawing state lines is something like this, where you get these really weird shapes. And in this, you could actually have 3 red districts and 2 blue districts, even though the majority of the population is actually blue, which is what gerrymandering is. Because the state legislators hold the power of drawing their own districts, we don't oftentimes see an equitable representation of the actual people of the state. And that's why there's a lot of argument right now over taking that power away from state legislators and creating a third party. So the state of Michigan actually in 2018 voted to have this neutral third party draw the districts beginning in 2020. So we're yet to see how that would work out for the state. It's hard to find an argument that you could actually find a neutral third party. It's going to be kind of a board of people with representatives from both the Democrats and the Republicans. They're talking about having ex-politicians, university professors, and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in 2020 for the state of Michigan and the drawing of new district lines. Now, there are two major Supreme Court cases that you need to be familiar with when we talk about gerrymandering. The first one is Baker versus Carr. So Charles Carr was a resident of Tennessee. And what he was noticing happening in Tennessee was that district lines were being drawn not only on a party basis, but also on a race basis. So he was noticing that minority races, Black, Mexican, whatever you want to call it, were being lumped into the same district. And so he argued before the Supreme Court that district lines should not be discriminatory based on race. So the Supreme Court ruled that, yes, state legislators do have the power to draw districts how they see fit. They are not allowed to discriminate based on race when it comes to districting. So today, you can't have an all-white district, an all-black district, an all-Asian district, an all-Mexican district, or anything like that. So it has to be an equitable representation of the population in that area. Now, 2 years later in Westbury versus Sanders, Carl Westbury challenged the governor of Georgia at the time, a guy by the name of Sanders, over the population of the districts within Georgia. So Westbury was a member of the 5th district in Georgia. And what he had noticed was in his neighboring district, District 4, they had about 1/3 of the population. So let's use perfect round numbers to make the math easy. Let's say Westbury's district, District 5, had 300 people in it. He was realizing that District 4 only had about 100 people in it. So his argument was that his representative now in District 5 was now responsible for 3 times as many constituents as the representative over here in District 4. So he was arguing that his vote actually had less weight, which is true when there's 300 people voting versus 100 people voting. So the Supreme Court ruled that districts, once again, could be drawn by state legislators however they saw fit, but these districts had to be equitable, not in territory size, but in population size. So for example, if we go back to our map of Michigan, Michigan over here, District 1 is by far the largest territory as far as districts go. But we also know that the population of the UP up here is very small. So they needed a larger territory to ensure that they had the same amount of population as, say, a District 11, where the school's located, the Novi area, where we know the population is very dense. Very dense. So you could have as much territory as you want as long as you have an equitable amount of population. Today's districts, based on the 2010 census, are roughly 500,000 people per district. And that number is obviously going to be subject to change when we get into the 2020 census. So the last thing I want to look at here is Michigan's reapportionment. So like we said, in 2010, we actually lost a representative. So we used to have 15 districts right here, right? So 15 districts had to be changed into 14 districts in this larger image right here. So we see District 15 disappeared and turned into District 12 over here. And what they did is they split up the city of Detroit. So Detroit's now been split in half. So Detroit's actually, depending on where you live, part of District 14 or part of District 9. Now, District 11 here, where many of you live, District 11 all of a sudden gains like this extra little hook right here. And what it is to keep a lot of the majority Republicans, so cities like Birmingham, Farmington Hills, and so on and so forth, in the same district. Whereas District 14 over here, which kind of snakes its way almost like an S shape here if you look at it sideways, through Detroit, then this is going to be a majority Democrat district. So you can see how this doesn't look as bad, but this definitely some gerrymandering going on within the Metro Detroit area here. So it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward in Michigan, because we have actually taken that power of districting away from the state legislators as of 2018. It was part of our election in 2018. We had a proposal to take that power away on the ballot, and we're giving it to a third party. Very few states do this. There's less than 20 states that do this right now, but a third party actually is responsible for the districting now in the state of Michigan. And that third party is going to be made up of ex-politicians, representatives from both the Democratic and Republican parties, university professors. It'll be a whole table, a whole committee of people responsible for drawing the districts. So the hope is district lines will be drawn a bit more fair and less partisan, because as of right now, if your party holds the power at the state legislation, then it's going to be far easier for you to draw districts where your party always wins. And it shouldn't be about the party winning. It should be about the constituents, us, the people that live in the actual districts. So that's all I got for you guys today on gerrymandering. Make sure you go back and watch the video so you have a understanding of packing and cracking. That New York Post video does a really good job of explaining it. It goes through a similar chart just like this. Tomorrow, or the next time we get together, we'll start talking about express powers of Congress. All right. You guys take care. Stay safe. Until next time, I'll see you.